"Why, what has happened?" cried the dwarfs. "You get on with your tale." So Bilbo told them all he could remember, and he confessed that he had nasty feelings that the dragon guessed too much of Hormiz's riddles, added to the caps of and their ponies. "I'm sure he knows where he came from, Lake Town, and had help from there, and I have horrible feelings that his next move may be in that direction. I wish to goodness I have never said that about Barrow Rider. It would make even a blind rabbit in these parts think of Lake Town. Well, well, I cannot be helped, and it is difficult not to slip in talking to the dragon." "Or so I have always heard," said Balin, anxious to confront him. "I think you did very well, if you ask me. You will found one of the very useful things at any rate, and got home alive, and that is more than most you can say through have had words like with the likes of Smog. It may be a mercy of blessing yet to know of the bare patch in the gold one's diamond waistcoat." That turned the conversation, and they all began discussing dragon slaying historical, Tubicious mythical, and various sorts of stabs and jabs and undercuts, and the different arts, devices, and staggerments by which they had been accomplished. The general opinion was that catching a dragon napping was not as easy as it sounded, and they attempt to stick one or prod one asleep was more likely to end in a disaster than a bold frontal attack. All the while they talked to Trudge and listened, till at last when the stars began to beep forth, it silently spread its wing and flew away. And all became more and more unhappy, and his foreboding grew. At last he interrupted them. "I'm sure we are very unsafe here," he said, "and I don't see the point of sitting here. The dragon has withered all the pleasant green, and anyway the night has come and it is cold. But I feel it in my bones that this place will be attacked again. Smog knows now how I came down to this hall, and you can trust him to guess where the other end of the tunnel is. He will break all the sides of the mountain to bits, if necessary, to stop up our entrance, and if we are smashed with it, the better he will like it." "You are very gloomy, Mr. Baggins," said Thorn. "Why has not Smog blocked the lower end then, if he's so eager to keep us out?" "He has not, or we should have heard him." I don't know. Because at first he wanted to try and lure me in again, I suppose, and now perhaps because he is waiting till after tonight's hunt, or because he does not want to damage his bedroom if he can help it. But I wish you would not argue. Smog will be coming out at any minute now, or our only hope is to get well in the tunnel and shut the door." He seemed so much in earnest that the dwarves at last did as he said. Though they delayed shutting the door, it seemed a desperate plan, for no one knew whether or how they could get it open again from the inside, and the thought of being shut in a place from which the only way out led through the dragon's lair was not one they liked. Also, everything seemed quite quiet, both outside and down the tunnel. So for a longish while they sat inside, not far down from the half-open door, and went on talking. The talk turned to the dragon's wicked words about the dwarves. Bilbo wished he had never heard them, or at least that he could feel quite certain that the dwarves now were absolutely honest when they declared that they had never thought at all about what would happen after the treasure had been won. "We knew it would be a desperate venture," said Thorn, "and we know that still. I still think that when we have won, it will be time enough to think what to do about it. As for your share, Mr. Baggins, I assure you, we are more than grateful, and you shall choose your own 14th as soon as we have anything to divide. I'm sorry if you are worried about transport, and I admit the difficulties are great. The lands have not become Westwild with the passing of the time, rather the reverse. But we will do wherever it comes to for you, whatever we can for you, and take our share of the cost when the time comes. Believe me or not, as you like." For that, the talk turned into a great hoard itself to the things that Thorn and Balin remembered. They wondered if they were still lying that unharmed in the hole below. The spears that were made for the armies of the great King Bladorthin, long since dead. Each had a thrice forged head, and their shafts were inlaid with cunning gold, but they were never delivered or paid for. Shields made for warriors long dead, the great golden cup of Thor, two-handed armored, and caverns with birds and flowers whose eyes and petals were jewels, coats of mail glided when silvered and impenetrable, the necklace of Gyron, lords of Dale, made of 500 emeralds green as glass, which he gave for the arming of his eldest son in a court of dwarf-linked rings, the like of which had never been made before. For it was wrought of pure silver to the power of strength of triple steel. But fairest of all was the greatest white gem, which the dwarves had found beneath the roots of the mountain, the heart of the mountain, the Arkenstone of Thrain. The Arkenstone, murmured Thorin in the dark, half dreaming, with his chin up on his knees. It was like a globe, like with 1,000 facets. It shone like silver in the firelight, like the water in the sun, and like snow under the stars, like rain upon the moon. But the entire danger of the horde had fallen from Bilbo. All through their talk, he was only half listening to them. He sat nearest to the door, with one ear cocked for any beginnings of sound. Without his other was alert for echoes beyond the murmurs of the dwarves, for any whisper of the movement far below. Darkness grew deeper, and he grew even more uneasy. Shut the door, he begged. I feel the dragon in my marrow. I like the silence far less than the uproar of the light. Shut the door before it's too late. Something in his voice gave the dwarves uncomfortable feeling. Slowly Thorin shook off his dream, and getting up he kicked away the stone that wedged the door, and then they thrust it upon it and closed it with a snap and clang. No trace of a keyhole was there left on the inside. They were shut in the mountain, and not a moment too soon. They had hardly gone any distance down the tunnel when a blow smote the outside of the mountain like the crash of a battering ram made of forest oaks and slung by giants. The rock boomed, the rock walls cracked, and the stone fell from the roof on their heads. What would have happened if the door had still been open? I didn't like to think. They fled further down the tunnel, glad to still be alive. While behind them, outside, they heard the roar of rubble of Sburg's fury, for he was breaking rocks to pieces, smashing wall and cliff, and with the lashing of his huge tail till the little lofty campaign gone, the scorched grass and the thrush of stone on the snail-covered walls, the narrow ledge, and all disappeared in a jumble of smithereens, and an avalanche of splintered stones fell over the cliff onto the valley below. Small yet left his lair in silent stealth, quickly soared into the air, and then floated heavily and slowly in the dark like a mysterious crow down the wind towards the west of the mountain, in the hopes of catching unawares something or somebody there, and of spying the outlet of the passage, when he could find nobody and see nothing, even where he guessed the outlet must actually be. After he let off his rage in this way, he felt better, and he thought in his heart that he would not be troubled again from that direction. In the meanwhile, he had further vengeance to take. Barrow Rider, he snorted, your feet came from the water side, and up the water you came without a doubt. I don't know your smell, but if you are not one of those men of the lake, you had their help. They shall see me and remember who is the real king under the mountain. He rose in fire and went away south towards the running river.